You think the first thing you grab when the dead start walking is a gun. Everyone does. You've watched the movies, played the games, scrolled through the forums. Firearms equal survival, right? Here's the thing. Guns are loud, heavy, ammunition-dependent nightmares that turn you into a resource-burning liability within 72 hours. Meanwhile, the electrician's toolkit sitting in your garage right now contains 5 items that will keep you alive longer, quieter, and more effectively than any arsenal. Sound crazy? That's because you're thinking like an action hero instead of someone who actually wants to survive past week 1. The average gun owner burns through their ammunition stockpile in 3 days of active defense. That's not speculation. That's pattern analysis from every civil breakdown in modern history. You're not special. You don't have infinite mags. And that confidence you're feeling right now about your marksmanship, that evaporates the first time you're shaking from adrenaline, sleep deprivation, and the fact that the thing coming at you used to be your neighbor's kid. Here's what separates survivors from statistics. Tools that work when you're exhausted, terrified, and running on fumes. Tools that don't announce your location to every threat within half a mile. Tools that solve problems guns can't touch. If you're already thinking this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, hit that subscribe button and prove me wrong in the comments. We break down survival strategy that actually works, not Hollywood fantasy. Bell icon means you get the tactical edge before everyone else figures it out. Let's continue. Let's set parameters because this isn't a video game and you don't get respawn points. The scenario: standard Romero-style outbreak, Shambler variants with classic transmission rules. 1 bite and you're done, headshots only, they don't tire and they don't stop. You're a civilian with average fitness. You live in a suburban area, and you have exactly what's in your house right now. No plot armor, no convenient military base nearby, no perfectly stocked bunker. The timeline matters. You have 6 hours from confirmed outbreak to full infrastructure collapse. Power grid goes dark, water stops flowing, emergency services cease existing. Your goal isn't to clear the city or find a cure. Your goal is breathing air in 90 days, when 95% of the population has stopped. That's it. That's the win condition. Now here's what you don't have: unlimited ammunition, tactical training that actually stuck, the calm nerves required for precision shooting under extreme stress, or the luxury of making noise without consequences. Every gunshot is a dinner bell. Every magazine you burn is irreplaceable. Every jam, every misfire, every moment fumbling with a reload is a window where you die. And here's the uncomfortable truth that gun enthusiasts hate. Most civilian shooters miss more than they hit, even at the range under perfect conditions. Add shambling corpses, moral hesitation about shooting things that look human, and the fact that you haven't slept in 30 hours, and your accuracy drops to maybe 20%. You need 5 rounds to drop 1 target. Do the math on your stockpile now. Getting grim yet? Good. That means you're ready for actual solutions. Tool number 1 is the wire stripper cutter combo, and before you laugh, understand this. Versatility equals survival. These weigh maybe 8 ounces, fit in your pocket, and solve 20 different problems that guns can't touch. You need silent defense? Strip insulation off heavy gauge wire. Fashion a garrote that drops threats without sound and doesn't require ammunition. Need to secure a door? Cut and twist wire into improvised locks that buy you precious seconds. Need to repair electronics that might save your life? Congratulations, you have the exact tool required. This isn't sexy. This isn't what you see in the movies. But here's what it is. Reliable, reusable, and so damn useful that you'll reach for it 3 times a day minimum. The tactical applications most people miss are criminal. You can create tripwires from stripped copper that conduct electricity if you're near a power source, turning doorways into defensive barriers. You can fashion restraints that actually hold because wire doesn't stretch or break like rope. You can repair critical equipment like radios, flashlights, or improvised weapons. You can even create fishing lines or snares for actual food procurement when your canned goods run dry. 1 8-ounce tool replacing 14 different items you'd otherwise need to carry. And when that tool breaks, any hardware store, any electrician's van, any industrial site has replacements. Try finding 9mm ammunition after week 2. I'll wait. The psychological advantage is real too. When you're not gambling your life on ammunition count, You think clearer. You plan better. You don't take stupid risks because you're conserving bullets. You become a problem solver instead of a shooter, and problem solvers last longer than shooters in every collapse scenario throughout history. This is boring, methodical survival. This is why it works. Tool number 2 is the multimeter, and this is where most people's brains shut off because it's not obviously a weapon. That's exactly why it keeps you alive. A multimeter detects electrical current, voltage, and resistance. In practical terms, it tells you if that wire is live before you touch it and die stupidly, if that building has power you can potentially use, if that fence is electrified, or if that seemingly safe door is rigged with an improvised defense system someone else built. Information is ammunition when you can't afford to waste actual ammunition. Here's the scenario that kills people. You find a building that looks secure, you breach without checking, and you discover the previous occupant was smarter than you and wired the entrance. Congratulations, you just killed yourself trying to find shelter. A multimeter gives you 3 seconds of testing that prevents that death. You can also use it to verify if generators are functional, before risking noise starting them up, to check if solar panels are still producing power, or to determine if that car battery is worth carrying. Every decision informed by actual data instead of guesswork and hope. The advanced application is detection and security. Rig a simple circuit with scavenged components, and you can create perimeter alarms that alert you to breaches without making noise that attracts more threats. You can detect if someone's bypassed your locks by monitoring circuit continuity. You can even identify which rooms in a building have active electrical drawers, telling you where squatters might be hiding or where equipment is still running. This is intelligence gathering. This is how you avoid walking into ambushes. This is how you become the survivor who knew what was happening while everyone else stumbled blind. And here's the kicker. Multimeters run on 9-volt batteries that last months with normal use. Compare that to burning through magazines. Compare that to the noise discipline alone. You're gathering critical information silently, safely, and repeatedly. No reloads required. No training necessary beyond 15 minutes of reading the manual. Just practical application of a tool that costs $30 and fits in your jacket pocket. Tool number 3 is insulated electrical gloves. And this is where we separate people who actually work with their hands from people who just buy tactical gear. Rubber insulated gloves rated for electrical work are cut-resistant, puncture-resistant to a surprising degree, and provide protection from contamination that regular gloves can't match. You're dealing with corpses that carry infectious material in every fluid. You're handling broken glass, jagged metal, and materials soaked in God knows what. One puncture wound from contaminated debris can kill you as surely as a bite. These gloves are rated to prevent electrical shock up to thousands of volts. You think a zombie's teeth are penetrating that. You think broken glass is getting through. The practical applications branch in 3 directions. First, pure protection. You can handle contaminated materials, clear debris, and engage in close-quarters scenarios with massively reduced infection risk. Second, utility work. You can safely interact with any electrical system without the very real risk of electrocution that kills more survivors than most people realize. Trying to hotwire a vehicle, accessing a breaker box, repairing damaged electronics. You need insulation or you need a death wish, pick one. Third, psychological armor. Knowing you have that layer of protection between you and contamination lets you act decisively when hesitation kills. You can grab, push, and maneuver without that half-second pause calculating infection risk. That half-second gets you bitten. Here's the scenario most people don't think through. You clear a building, you think you're safe, you start scavenging supplies. Your hand brushes against something wet on a door frame. Is that water? Is that blood? If you're barehanded or wearing cotton gloves, you now have a potential exposure event and you get to spend the next 72 hours wondering if you just killed yourself opening a door. If you're wearing electrician's gloves rated for biohazard level protection, you wipe it off and continue living. The mental overhead of constant contamination anxiety is exhausting. These gloves cut that anxiety by 80%. Exhaustion kills. These prevent a specific flavor of exhaustion. They're also durable as hell and available everywhere. Every electrical supply shop, every hardware store, every industrial site has multiple pairs in different sizes. They don't degrade quickly like nitrile gloves. They can be decontaminated and reused effectively, and they provide legitimate protection instead of security theater. Cost about $40. Last for years with proper care. Literally save your life the first time you have to move a body or clear a contaminated space. Tool number 4 is the humble cable tie, and this is where tactical versatility hits absurd levels. Electricians carry hundreds of these because they solve temporary and permanent securing problems with zero tools required. You can restrain threats, you can secure doors and windows, you can create improvised repairs to gear, you can bundle supplies for efficient carrying. You can mark trails, you can create closures for bags and containers, and you can fashion emergency splints or tourniquets. All with a piece of plastic that weighs 1/10 of an ounce and costs pennies. The weight-to-utility ratio is criminal. Let's talk restraint because this gets uncomfortable but necessary. You find another survivor who's bitten and hiding it. Happens constantly in every scenario. You can't trust them to self-isolate because denial and desperation override logic. You also can't waste resources guarding them with weapons drawn. Cable ties secure them humanely but effectively, while you make hard decisions about quarantine. Similarly, hostile survivors are a reality post-collapse. Zip ties let you restrain threats without killing, preserving your ammunition and your humanity. That matters more than you think when you're trying to maintain psychological stability 6 months in. The repair applications are endless. Backpack strap breaks? Cable tie creates a field repair that holds under load. Vehicle part comes loose? Zip ties secure it temporarily until proper repair is possible. Need to secure a tarp for shelter? Forget about knots that slip or loosen. Cable ties lock and hold through storms. Need to organize gear so you can find critical supplies in darkness? Bundle and label with ties. Need to create a makeshift handle for a weapon or tool? Wrap and secure with ties. Every single one of these problems would otherwise require rope, duct tape, or specific fasteners. Cable ties replace all of them and weigh almost nothing. The abundance factor is real. Every office building has them in IT closets. Every workshop has bins full. Every electrician's van has thousands. They're so common that they're effectively infinite in urban and suburban environments. And the learning curve is zero. Thread, pull, done. A child can use them effectively. When you're exhausted and operating on 3 hours of sleep in 4 days, simplicity equals effectiveness. Complex solutions fail. Simple solutions like cable ties keep working. Tool number 5 is the headlamp, and before you say that's just a flashlight, understand the tactical difference. A headlamp keeps your hands free while providing light exactly where you're looking. You can work on repairs, you can navigate obstacles, you can defend yourself. You can treat injuries, all while maintaining illumination without occupying a hand. That free hand is the difference between life and death when you need to climb, fight, or carry supplies simultaneously. Standard flashlights force you to choose light or functionality. Headlamps give you both. The tactical applications multiply in darkness scenarios. You clear a building at night with a flashlight? You're telegraphing your exact position while limiting your defensive capability to one hand. You do the same with a headlamp. You maintain full combat effectiveness while still seeing threats. You navigate urban ruins in darkness. You need both hands for climbing debris and maintaining balance. Headlamp solves this. You perform critical repairs on equipment or shelter. You need both hands for the work and light on the task. Headlamp. Every single scenario where darkness complicates survival, this tool provides solutions flashlights can't match. The signaling capability is underrated. You can use strobe modes for emergency signaling to allies without burning precious flares or ammunition. You can use low-power modes for covert navigation that don't broadcast your position like high-intensity flashlights. You can even use them for psychological warfare. A coordinated group with headlamps can create the illusion of larger numbers or professional organization that deters hostile survivors. And modern LED headlamps run for dozens of hours on rechargeable batteries that can be powered by scavenged solar panels or hand-crank generators. The sustainability is built in. Here's the scenario that proves the value. You're 3 weeks in, you've found a defensible position, and you need to reinforce security measures during a night when shambler activity is high. Standard flashlight means you work one-handed, progress is slow, and you're vulnerable because you can't hold tools and defend simultaneously. Headlamp means you work at full speed with both hands free, you complete defensive measures in half the time, and if threats approach you can respond without fumbling to set down a light source first. That time compression saves your life when dawn is still 4 hours away and the groaning is getting closer. And like every other tool on this list, headlamps are everywhere and cheap. Every hardware store, every camping supply shop, every automotive section has them. Basic models cost $15. Professional models cost maybe $60. Compare that to a firearm and ammunition. Compare that to the sustainability factor. You can scavenge replacement batteries from literally millions of devices. You can repair most damage with basic tools. They don't require specialized knowledge or training. Point your head, see things, keep living. The elegance is in the simplicity. Now here's the assessment most people don't want to hear. These 5 tools don't make you invincible. They don't solve every problem. They don't replace intelligence, planning, or the willingness to make hard decisions. But they solve the specific problems that guns create while providing versatility that firearms can't match. You stay quieter. You preserve resources. You maintain functionality when ammunition runs dry. And you address the 90% of survival scenarios that don't involve shooting anything. The short-term survival probability with this loadout is maybe 6 out of 10 if you're smart, physically capable, and lucky. The long-term survival probability creeps up to 4 out of 10, which sounds grim until you realize that's better odds than 95% of the population gets. You're not a commando. You're not a protagonist. You're a civilian trying to survive with limited resources and realistic capabilities. These tools match that reality. They're force multipliers for normal people, not fantasy solutions for action heroes. The practical advice is simple. You acquire these 5 items now for under $200 total. You learn basic electrical concepts in an afternoon. You practice using them in non-emergency scenarios so muscle memory develops. You store them in an accessible location with spare batteries, backup components, and a basic instruction reference. And when the situation deteriorates, you grab the toolkit that actually functions for months instead of the gun that runs dry in days. You prioritize silence over firepower, sustainability over short-term effectiveness, and versatility over specialization. That's the formula. It's boring, it's methodical, it works. All right, your turn. What's in your actual toolkit right now, not your fantasy loadout? Be honest. Would you have thought about electrical tools before watching this? Or were you still planning to grab the shotgun and pray? And here's the hard one. If you had to survive 90 days with only these 5 items, plus basic supplies, what's your plan for the psychological endurance required when the excitement wears off and it's just grinding survival? Drop your strategy in the comments. No plot armor, no wishful thinking, just honest assessment of what you'd actually do. We dissect survival scenarios that challenge assumptions and provide real tactical value. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns that separate survivors from statistics, and hit that bell so you don't miss when we dismantle your next confident survival plan. Remember, guns are sexy, wire cutters are effective. Choose accordingly.